Welcome to Lawrence Public School, Mr. Carrero.
Thank you.
Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Julissa Dekle, and I am a facilitator for the Multilingual Learner Department here in our district. I have been working for LPS for the last 3 years. I was born and raised here and also an alumni of LPS. I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves and with their role, their title, and number of years associated with LPS. And then I'll ask you to introduce yourself. And once the introductions are completed, I will start with the first question. Every question, you have 4 minutes to answer.
Okay. Know the rules.
Hello, my name is Karen Andujar. I am the Family Engagement Specialist and also the School-Based Homeless Liaison for the Parkland Elementary School. I am a parent first, and this is my first year working in the district, and I was born and raised here in Lawrence.
Good afternoon, my name is Sandra Lewis. I'm born and raised here in Lawrence. I've been with Lawrence High School for the last 12 years. I'm also the homeless and parent liaison at the school.
Good afternoon, my name is Arna Santiago. I was raised here in Lawrence, attended Lawrence Public Schools. I've been with the district for 16 years. I am the Educational Stability Specialist, so I work closely with our homeless and foster students who fall under the McKinney-Vento and the Every Student Succeed Act.
Good afternoon, my name is Maria Lopez, born and raised here in Lawrence, also still a current resident. Also a parent of a child who attends Lawrence Public Schools, and I am currently the referral and enrollment specialist for our early learners age group for the Special Education Office, and also work closely with the Family Resources.
Good afternoon, my name is Angie Sasavedo. I'm the Enrollment and Re-Engagement Manager here at Lawrence High School. I have worked on and off with the district for over 5 years. However, I've worked in the community for more than 18 years. I am a resident of Lawrence for more than 31 years, and I am a product of Lawrence Public Schools.
Hello, I'm Thomas Bell. I'm a district behavior analyst currently at the Harpin School. I've been with Lawrence a total of 6 years, both as a special ed teacher as well as a BCBA.
And good afternoon, my name is Martin Rodriguez. I was raised in Lawrence and came to Lawrence Public Schools. I am currently a school counselor at the Oliver Elementary.
Guidance or adjustment?
Guidance.
Guidance.
But I've been in the mental health field for over 12 years already.
So I will start with the first question. Can you please share your top?
So let me introduce myself.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Sorry, Ross. This is good.
Eric just like lasering in.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, okay, we're following them.
She already knows I'm a funny guy. How does it feel to be a minority?
I love working in the district.
I know that. What I find amazing is, especially in your areas, support staff is very important. And with all the groups that I've been with, they ask me about what am I going to do for recruitment, for diversity, and we're doing pretty good. And all of you are mostly from the city of Lawrence. I'm also from the city of Lawrence, but I came here before most of you were born. I started to reside in the city of Lawrence in 1967. I'm also a product of Lawrence Public Schools. And my brother and my sister, now we're all over the East Coast. And I no longer sleep in Lawrence, but I live in Lawrence. And I have worked nowhere else except for Lawrence, whether in education for the last 40 years, as a probation officer in the district court system, director of juvenile diversion for Essex County, assigned here in Lawrence, or a social worker assigned here in Lawrence. So my career spans working with kids, and a lot of at-risk kids is the other half that I do. I receive a lot of kids from Lawrence at our CSU program. Kids that either drop out of school, expelled from school, or arrested for coming out of incarceration or on probation. They get referred to our CSU Center. We've had a lot of success with those kids. I'm honored to be a finalist, to be superintendent of Lawrence Public Schools. It's kind of bittersweet, and if anyone knows that, it's this young lady here. The school district that I work for is a phenomenal school district, and it's not a secret. It's about engaging the people that you're working with, and that's the parents. Some people say that that's difficult. It's challenging like anything else, especially in a democratic process. But when you have good listening skills and you have good communication skills, eventually you find a way to make things happen for kids. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. So, our first question comes now. Can you please share your top 2 goals as Lawrence Superintendent in your first year? And how will you work to build relationships in community with a community you've selected? And then please be as specific as possible about your approach.
Oh, are those 2 different questions?
Yeah.
So the first one was my 2 goals.
Yep.
And the next one was work with stakeholders.
How will you build your relationship in the community?
Okay. So, first 2 goals is to put together a plan that everybody can agree upon for getting out of receivership. And I think Lawrence is in a pretty good situation to do so. A lot of work has been done. Unfortunately, we got an image problem, and we don't know how to market that. It seems as if, in true fashion of Lawrence, we circle the wagons instead of shooting out, we shoot in. And that has always been a problem that we've had here in Lawrence, and we've got to correct that. But yes, I do have a plan for getting us out of receivership, and it takes a lot of stakeholders to come together and come to an agreement of how it has to be. The biggest piece of that, unfortunately, is the governance structure. And what does that look like? What does the school committee look like? Is it going to be an elected school board? Is it going to be an appointed school board? Is it going to be a hybrid? So that's a discussion that has to happen. And the way I approach that, okay, is I do the research and I put it out on the table. So there's other places that have all different types of school boards. And let's look to see if they were successful or not successful, okay? And I want you to know that I've already done that research, and an appointed school board is no different than an elected school board. The difference is the professional development you provide the school board. Now, it's tough for a superintendent to mandate professional development of elected officials when they're their boss. So part of the strategy is that whatever the makeup of the school board, how it gets designed, professional development has to happen for them. Not everybody knows how to handle a $282 million budget. Not everybody understands educational policy. Not everybody knows what it takes to educate kids. And if you go into discussions and you don't have some background knowledge of those things, discussions become difficult. Number 2, I think it's time that we look at the high school. The high school slowly but surely left what it was made out to be, which was small academies. And it was done subtly. And it was done under the first receivership, and it wasn't done on purpose. It happened by accident. How did it happen by accident? They created Abbott Academy. And when they created Abbott Academy, all of the other academies started to go by the wayside. There is phenomenal structures in high schools across this country right now. And we're posed to also do some of those things. Within there, I would like to expand early college. I think that it's an opportunity also for us to expand internships, so we can give kids lots of credits for internships. We need to bring in the business community so they open up their companies so our kids can go there. The third piece that I'd like to talk about is, and I've said this before, all of your 9th graders, almost, about 80% of them, applied to go to the vocational technical school.
1 minute. Sorry.
And they didn't get in. But there's no reason why they still can't go through an exploratory program. And if you can't take Moses to the mountain, bring the mountain to Moses. So why don't we put one of our academies and make it a biotech STEM related CTE program, okay? So those are my 2 goals. I have several other goals, but unfortunately, you've only given me so much minutes. The same ways that I'm talking to you is the same way I'm going out to all the stakeholders in this community, whether it's parents, whether it's business leaders, whether it's city councilors, whether it's representatives, or whether it's just common folk. And I'm going to preach to them the same thing I preach to everyone, of what my vision is for the schools and why. And they either support it or they don't support it. And if you don't support it, give me some examples of what you think should happen.
Thank you.
The next question is Sandra.
Understanding that Lawrence is exiting receivership in the next few years and the impact this will have financially for our district, how will you work to ensure the quality of services is not compromised as we move forward implementing cost-saving cutting measures? Again, please be as specific as possible, including sharing examples of how you managed this in a prior role.
So first of all, it's not in the next few years. It's in the next 6 months to 12 months that we get out of receivership, all right? So if you understand the budget process, school districts receive their monies based on student enrollment. And right now it's around $22,000 per kid. We're enjoying the fact that the Student Opportunity Act for the last 4 years, we have 2 more years left of it, the district will receive additional funding in that fundings in that area. We also get state grants and we get federal grants, okay? So regardless, what one always has to do with the budget is to make sure that you're providing the services that are necessary for kids, okay? How you save on those budgets is you keep an eye on your supplies. Unfortunately, sometimes teachers love because they like to buy things constantly and they use up all their supply monies. If they learn how to use their supplies wisely and save those dollars, now you can take some of those monies and go elsewhere. The other thing that I'll share with you, at my school, her daughter's school, we have a waste management program, a recycling program. In 8 months, we were able to take out of the compost 94,000 pounds. But that's not what the real issue is. We saved, within the budget, $39,000. That's one school. So let's just multiply that times 20 schools, and I know that there are 27 schools here in the district. You know what you saved? $980,000. And when it was budgeted for waste, and if it's saved there, now we have money for other expanded programs that you can transfer within the district to put enrichment programs together and all of the other support programs that we have. Obviously, I think we also need to be aggressive at looking at foundations and other institutions that provide grants for us. And so long as they're within the lines of what they're looking for, we can apply and we would be eligible to receive those fundings. One of the problems that we have with public school budgets is that if you come in the on the budget in the black at the end of the year, does anybody know what happens to that money? It goes to the black hole. They refer to it as the general fund on the city side, okay? Unfortunately, that is the way the law is written, and we've got to come up with strategies so we know what our priorities are. And with that also, when you present your budget to the public, and we want the city to put more than their fair share that they hardly give now for their tax dollars, I think we have to be able to rally support and prove to them what it does in terms of helping kids become successful. Okay?
Thank you. Third question is Anais. Okay.
Please describe what culturally responsive leadership means to you. How will you as a leader ensure that this is embedded in our work as central office for the district staff? This is actually a two-part question. The second part is, how will this inform decision or investment around curriculum and instructions for our district?
So the first one is culturally responsive.
Leadership means to you.
Mm-hmm.
How will you as a leader ensure that this is embedded in our work as central office or the district staff? And how would this inform decision or investment around curriculum and instruction for our district?
Let me try to decipher that. So a culturally responsive school district and leadership has to be intentional. Intentional means that wherever you go in the district, you're seeing examples of kids, of staff, and the different cultures that they bring into the learning environment and teaching environment. It also has to do with professional development. It is mandated that we provide cultural activities and curriculum surrounding wherever the kids' homes are. Okay, so that's already mandated. I think it's important that in all schools you celebrate cultural activities. That question was asked of me by the student body that interviewed me, and I said, we already have Cinco de Mayo. What did you do for Cinco de Mayo? We just went through the Dominican Independence Day? What did you do? Okay, it is important that we celebrate those activities in the school buildings. Citywide within the district, we love to eat. What better than to make sure that every race that we have within the Lawrence Public Schools brings something of their native country so somebody can try, and bring activities so that they can perform. So that creates an opportunity not just to orientate people, but give them an opportunity to learn about people. And obviously, by doing those type of activities, you're demonstrating how important that is. Within the classroom, the same thing has to happen. Teachers have to understand where kids are coming from. I monitor that through the lesson plans. In our lesson plans, teachers have to demonstrate sheltered English immersion strategies so all kids are grasping the concept that they're trying to teach. And that teachers give them the opportunity also to participate, whether in English or Spanish. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest and hardest topic going on in public education right now. And we need to embrace it instead of be afraid of it. It's called AI. It is remarkable what's happening for kids in AI. When you look at what has happened through the pandemic and the learning loss that happened for kids, the number one strategy that's most successful, does anybody know what it is? It's called one-on-one tutoring. Well, you know you can't do that. You don't have the money to do that. AI, the programs that they've created in larger school districts that become instant tutors, instant feedback for kids is phenomenal, okay? I think that if we start moving toward a technology-driven curriculum more and more, your dollars are saved for all of the other things that you want to do instead of spending it on paper also.
And the fourth question is Karen.
So students in Lawrence want and deserve to have a voice in decision making. How would you work to include the voices of our students, including our multilingual, neurodivergent students and students with special needs or disabilities? And can you please share an example of how you've successfully done this in your prior roles?
First thing that I would need to do is figure out how to cut their cell phones, because man, they've overthrown governments with their cell phones already in other countries. If you notice that, that's how revolutions start. But that's an excellent question. I think it's important that students are included in every policy decision. It's the old adage, you're going to impose rules and regulations on a clientele that they have had no input in. So the old adage is, people help support those things they help create. And the same thing happens with students. I'll give you an example. When I was at the technical school, I was the dean of discipline. You know who used to write the rules? My most worst students that got suspended. And they were worse on themselves and the kids than the staff was. That's how I got them to start to become neutralized, that they understood what the ramifications were. If our students don't have voice, not only will they have a student council in each school, of that student council in each school, there will be a representative from that school that will be part of the citywide student council, that will be advising me, that I will be meeting with on a monthly basis. And I mean that sincerely. I have always been a student administrator. I look to kids for advice. Who knows better than the ones that are running around all over the place and where the secrets are? So you have to include them. One of the major issues, we call it major, uniform policy. You know about those. So in my uniform policy at the school that I'm at, that uniform policy was written a while ago. But now we have non-traditional students that are part of the LGBT community. So in Lawrence, believe it or not, parents are very religious. There's got to be 187 places of worship. Whenever you talk about those types of issues, oh my word, it's taboo. But a student brought up to me, and it was a student from the LGBT community, that they didn't want to wear a skirt. And I said, wow, that's the uniform policy, right? You remember that. Those students wrote a petition, went before the school board. I listened to them. My role is to listen and then give feedback back. I went and asked them to get a group of students together and talk to me about the issue. They talked to me about it and I said, you're absolutely right. Let's rewrite a policy that's equity, and present it to the school board. Now, the school board was hell-bent on changing that policy. But I said, that's not what equity is about. Sometimes equity and fairness isn't always popular, okay? So I took more heat from outside of the community of people writing to me. How dare you, et cetera, okay? But you know what? I always err on the side of what's fair, what's right, what's honest, and how does it benefit kids. If I can defend those 4 areas, I stick to my guns.
The next question is Tommy.
So I don't think it's a secret, but Lawrence has a historical record of high staff turnover between school years. Can you please describe effective systems that you would put in place in your current or prior role to increase staff retention or stabilize the workforce?
So we're not talking about kids, we're talking about staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we try paying them a decent wage? You know, you guys do some of the toughest jobs of any industry, and within schools, you do some of the toughest jobs because the socioeconomics that we have in the city. Okay, I think that you got to create cultural norms within the school buildings that you feel safe and you feel valued. Safety is making sure that the place is clean, that there's a discipline policy that's being adhered to with fairness and oversight of your buildings. The aspects of having a healthy place to go to work, proper ventilation, heating, parking, all the regular essentials that if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you start at the bottom, you're going to want to stay, okay? So I think that most folks that leave schools is because they don't like the environment that they're working in. And I firmly believe that we need to allow a mechanism for everyone to be heard. And we have to practice from the leadership all the way down through mentoring and modeling that we value your opinions, okay? I'm open to making sure that across lines, up and down, that there's an opportunity for your voices to be heard through whether it's your unions or whether it's through your exempt status, but definitely have voices that you feel that as if you're being heard. I often preach that you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that's where it breaks. You need to value the same people that clean the building, and we need to instill that value in kids. They're here early in the morning to make sure you have clean bathrooms, that your walls look prim, that the food is done properly. But you also need to be able to demonstrate that. That's what I would tell the kids, that you value them. Everybody that's here is equal. They have a job and they're experts in their areas. But you need to make sure that you value them. So I think creating the morale takes a lot of different types of ideas and opportunities. But I think that when a person is heard and a person is valued and they're giving the adequate supplies that they need, they're kind of happy. The last thing is obviously the money, okay? And I think teachers, you know, especially now after the pandemic, because kids had to be at home, and she found out what it's like to make a lesson plan and have to write it out. You guys came back and parents would go like this to you, oh my God, right? They found out that teaching is not easy, especially 5-year-olds, right? Where did it go? Now we're back to, there are people that don't want to come to work for us, and not for us. The shortage that we have in the teaching world, and it's a result of the acting out that students are doing in the different districts. People don't want to go back to that.
Okay, last question, Arlene.
Given what you know about the Lawrence community and the district, what do you see as your biggest learning curve, and how will you manage that? How will you seek support in this regard?
That's a very good question. My first 100 days is to visit every school and listen and learn. To visit every department and hear what their needs are. So that as I'm preparing a budget, I can have discussions with the principals. This is a big district and it's going to take a little bit of time. I am not coming in here to change what you do. You do a great job. I'm here to support you. I'm here to see how I can make things happen much more quickly and that you have the adequate supplies and that we create a safe learning environment for kids. It's going to take some time, so that's why I have to be a listener. Sometimes it's more important to ask questions than to seek answers. And I think that if you're honest about that, folks will be comfortable in sharing those frustrations, challenges that they may have. And I think that at the end of the day, as we create what the district priorities are, so long as they align with the district priorities, you should be receiving the type of support and supplies that you need in order to be effective in your jobs.
So we have asked all of our questions, and now it's, we want to give you the opportunity, if you have any questions that you want to ask of us.
I do. The first question to all of you is, are you feeling overwhelmed?
No. I would say no.
I have a great support.
I'm sorry?
I have a great support.
Okay. Are there enough of you, of support staff? Is there an adjustment counselor in every building?
Yes, we have 5.
In your building?
Yes.
How big is your building?
We have 456 students.
That's it? And you got 5? You're in heaven.
We need it.
That's a better ratio than the state for the
Yeah.
guidance to student ratio.
Yeah.
But it should happen like that.
It should.
It should happen like that, right? How many are in this, so the support staff, is that a unit within the district?
I think we're here, right now we're,
Different
yeah,
departments.
like I'm central office, so in my
Okay.
department, I can say like, I consider our department very, like, customer service for the school, because we
Yeah.
work with the multilingual learner department, we're
Mhm.
focused on supporting like civil rights, like making sure our English
Oh,
learner
I know
service.
about that one, yes.
English learners that, services are happening to our students,
Yeah.
they're getting screened, we're opening our first dual language program in September, making sure that starts right correctly, like, but we basically support, Title III grants,
Yeah, yeah.
that's my department.
Is there a school climate department in school?
I wouldn't know, CCM, central office, or everybody else can.
School climate would come out of central office. So school climate in other school districts, for example, they manage crisis intervention, response training.
So that's
drills,
OSS.
Bullying.
Yeah, Office of Student Support
We do
Services
have it.
will have
Her
it,
name
yeah.
is Brittany.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I want to make sure that there's enough there, because when you talk to different constituencies, they tell you, we need this, we need
Mhm.
that. Of course, but there's never enough to go around. And I think that if we look at things and analyze them and prioritize them, then you can start looking to see where else we can expand it. Okay? I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Are we good on time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one more question. What are your thoughts about counseling and having counselors at the schools? Mental health.
Yes, absolutely. So at our school, we have Cartwheel, and there's a representative from the district that's coming over to my charter school because of the phenomenal success that we have. How we got Cartwheel was because, like every other school district, we couldn't find them, mental health counselors. So the Department of Education put out a contract for an agency to do that, and they gave us like 50 slots. They give districts different slots, and the mental health referral happens with the teachers, with consent from the parents, and they can do mental health counseling via Zoom or in person. And they get to the family within 24 hours.
But they are in the school?
No, they come to the school, or the kids go to their office, or they do it over Zoom. But more importantly is the reports and the surveys that they give back to us, the common threads of what's going on with the kids or in their families and things like that. So now we can react as a school district and create support systems and programs for them based on what they are, okay? That's what I think the real success of the mental health component is. And obviously, that's an area that is one of the priorities for school districts over the next course of the next 5 years, and especially when you remodel. The department has gone as far as put guidelines out for social and emotional learning. So there should be a teacher for social and emotional learning also, all right? So yes, I fully support that 100%.
I have a quick question. 2 seconds. Given your background as a probation officer in social work, which is my background, criminal justice, and I'm also a social worker.
Someday you're gonna be here.
How important do you think is the relationship between our school resource officers, our police officers, and our schools?
They're not the relationship, and that has to change. But let me just stick up for the police a little bit. It's hell out there of what they gotta do. But you know what? They gotta start putting resources back. And the good thing is that the current police chief and I grew up together, okay? And that's one of the areas that I have written down that should happen under school planning. That the police department, the fire department need to be able to get back into the schools and have a relationship with kids. And they need to know this school inside and out, because when a crisis happens, we call them and they have to be able to jump, okay? So that relationship needs to happen. It's gone away because of the transition that we've had within the police department. And back in the other days, those of you that have been here for a while, the DARE program.
Yeah, I was part of that. I think I was aware.
But sometimes with priorities, especially in the police department, you know, in an urban community, and they're limited with resources, now they're building up, again, their police department. So now it's time to start talking about dedicated police officers that just provide services to the schools.
So you're on board with having more school resource police officers in the schools?
So you have resource officers here in the school already, I guess, right? It's all a matter of what the ratio between officers are. I have to tell you, I was impressed when I was walking around today and I saw the monitoring in the hallways, and I recognized some of the individuals that are here. This is a great place to be. As I said before, I look at kids and I can tell how a school functions, because you look at them and you see confidence in their eyes, and they're happy, and they're smiling, and they say good morning, you know? They're not gawking at you or looking at you by the side. So the work that's being done here is good. But if we need more resource officers, I think that we need a plan to deploy them and how best to use them.
So right now we have 1 sergeant and 4 police officers that are assigned to the whole district for 27.
The whole district?
27 schools.
You already know my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Here's a button.
Welcome to Lawrence Public School, Ms. Noriega. Is that how you say your last name? Okay. Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Julissa Decle, and I am a facilitator for the Multilingual Learner Department in our district. I have been working for LPS for the last 3 years. I'm also an alumni of LPS, but also born and raised here. At this time, I'm going to have all of my colleagues here introduce themselves with their role and how long they've been here with LPS, and also their association with us. And then I will ask you to introduce yourself, and then once the introductions are completed, I will ask you the first question. And for each question, you have 4 minutes. Okay. Karen, you can start.
Hi, my name is Karen Andujar. I'm the Family Engagement Specialist and School-Based Homeless Liaison. This is my first year working in the public school system, and I was born and raised here in Lawrence as well. And I'm also the timekeeper for today.
Good afternoon, my name is Sandra Lewis. I am the homeless parent liaison at Lawrence High School, born and raised here in Lawrence as well. I've been with the district for over 12 years. Good afternoon, my name is Arlene Santiago. I am the educational severity specialist for the district. I've been with the district for about 16 years. So I work closely in supporting our homeless and foster students who fall under the McKinney Rental Act and the Every Student Succeed Act. And I'm raised in Lawrence, was raised in Lawrence, and attended Lawrence Public School.
Good afternoon, my name is Lorena Lopez. Born and raised here in Lawrence, also current resident. I have a child in the Lawrence Public School System. I am currently the referral and enrollment specialist for the early childhood age group for our district. So I work closely with the special education department as well as the family resource center.
Good afternoon, my name is Angie Acevedo. I am the enrollment and re-engagement manager here at Lawrence High School. I have worked on and off for the district for close to 5 years. However, I've worked in the community for more than 18 years. I am a resident of Lawrence for more than 30 years, and I am also a product of Lawrence Public Schools.
Hi, I'm Thomas Bell. I'm a district behavior analyst currently at the Parkland Complex. I have been in Lawrence for a total of 6 years, both as a special ed teacher as well as a BCBA.
Hola, my name is Marlene Reyes, and I was raised in Lawrence, and I came to Lawrence Public Schools, and I am currently working as a counselor at the Oliver Elementary. I've been in the system for 5 years.
Your turn.
Ligia Noriega Murphy, and I have been in education for over 29 years in no different locations, but in 2 places. One in Boston, where I spent most of the time as a teacher. I actually graduated from the Madison Park Vocational School. Then I became a teacher, opened schools, transformed schools, sadly closed some schools. Then I became assistant superintendent, and now I'm the superintendent of the modern public schools for 3 years. And I'm one of 8 children, so fighting and negotiating is part of life. And I was raised by my grandmother, and when I came here, I was 17 years old, and I met my father for the first time. And even though 8 of us have finished their mom and dad, things happen in life when you grow up. And so as a newcomer, it was shocking to me to come to school. I went to a very small school and went to school with 5,000 students. That was so scary. So I very relate to, I relate to the students when they come to school from other countries, and I hope this is the language plus the culture, and plus get to know a new parent. So that's me.
Thank you. I have the first question. Can you please share your top 2 goals as Lawrence Superintendent in your first year? These are 2 parts. How will you work to build relationship and community with our community if selected? Try to be specific as possible about your approach, techniques, and any tools you will use to communicate and build relationships. And I can repeat that.
So the goals and priorities, I have to say, I would mix them both. And one is to make sure that receivership becomes part of history, and that excellence is part of our future and also our present. So by saying that, one of the goals would be to make sure that we are going to continue in the pattern of growth. And congratulations, first of all. I mean, you are bringing this school to the district to this level of actually even talking about living receivership. That means a lot of work has been done. And so it's how to build on that. And so the goal would be to continue working on what are the metrics that DESE is using to make sure that we are not going to go back at all, but continue building on that. And also trying to make sure that I get to know all the schools well, the DNA, each school has their own autonomy. So I want to respect that. I want to make sure that I'm going to be working with them very closely to define what the next steps are going to be to continue growing. So the goals would be in terms of making sure we don't go back and getting to know people. But the goals as a district would be literacy and numeracy. All the students should be reading at grade level and thinking in numeracy, constructing and unpacking things. Going to building relationships, I love to talk to people. I like to get to know people, no positions. So titles, we all have titles, but it's deeper than that. So you would be hear me asking, how do you get your name, or where are you from? Because I really want to know who you are as a human being. And the reason is because if we don't connect as human beings, nothing really happens. It's very plastic, very superficial things, and I'm not like that. I like to get to know people. Some people might not like me, and that's okay. I still love everybody. But I like to also have transparency on what the expectations are. So going back to with the principals and the teams is, I need to know what is the autonomy. When we talk about autonomy, what does it mean? I have a common understanding, common ground. So when I go to the schools and visit schools, and I spend a lot of time in schools actually, is to really not make assumptions, but to get to know people. Going to the classrooms, and you are here because you are a student support team. And also, what are we doing as wraparound services for students and our families? One of the things that I am really, really interested in my current job, we have struggled a lot at trying to put a lot of pieces in place to support adults, because we see that attendance is also affecting adults. And it's not because they don't want to come to work, it's internal and external factors that are getting in the way of coming to work. So how can we work with the city to develop a robust employee assistance program, not just a flyer, because it is a flyer that says, if you need help, this is where you go and visit the website, but actually how we can actually get the city to get staff, experts with the district to go to the schools and have some time where people can go and just have sessions, an open quiet session to talk about things that are happening or make appointments. But usually if I give you a flyer, by the time teachers, everybody leaves, it's somewhere because we have to be on our toes all the time, our feet all the time. So I want to make sure that it's real when we talk about mental, social, emotional support for adults and students. If the adults are healthy, our students are happy, and they're going to get the best education ever. So that is something I would like to do with every single school, is to develop a team of wraparound services. What does it look like in every single school? And I know that sometimes attendance, people are running out of days. Is what do we do with the union to see how we can support our educators? How do I build relationship? Because that's actually going to the campus and meeting with people, having open forums where, and this I have done many times. I did it in the district. Is to go there. People know when I'm going to be there. Usually I go by myself or I bring somebody else that will take notes. And it's an open forum. People can bring just conversations on whatever they want, the issues they want. If I don't have an answer, I will say I will get back to you.
Thank you.
Oh, she's good.
The next question, Sandra.
Understanding that Lawrence is exiting receivership in the next few years and the impact that this will have financially for our district, how will you work to ensure that quality of services is not compromised as we move towards implementing cost savings cutting measures? Again, please be as specific as possible, including sharing examples of how you managed this in your prior role.
My experience has been with the small schools with Gates grant. Some of you probably were too young to remember that Boston went to small schools and did everything and then the money ran out. So I always thought about life after the grants. And that would be something we have to start doing an assessment of what services, what do we have in place that works? What is the cost? And look at 3 to 5 year planning on how to sustain those changes or if we want to keep those services. Also working with partners that sometimes they have to provide services for free to the community is what can we actually start shifting now, not to wait until the money runs out, but what to start shifting for services. So our partners would be taking some of the caseload. Like for example, if we want to say we want to invite more people to do assessments with students, and then how can they support us by bringing interns? So it's actually planning a 3 to 5 year financial plan for here, but the services. Going back to, and you're going to say what she said, the same thing is, I need to know the schools, what they offer, what they have that is working, what's the data that shows that. Look, I mean, it's nice to talk, but show me that the data you're making improvements, and how do we keep those services and enhance or build on that, looking at what will be the financial impact when the money runs out, and not to wait until that happens, but start putting things in place now when we have the money and start using some of the reverse, how can I say, we have the money now, make it more robust, knowing that already we are working with partners that want to take on all those services that we provide. Professional development is something that I know the districts spend a lot of money on that, which is great, but how do we sustain that? That would be going to colleges and also looking at other organizations that have to do it for free. So that is, my experience has been, going from small schools, relying on a grant, and the grants are gone. So it's always life after grant, and here's life after receivership. And once again, that would be part of the history moving forward, is that how can we hold the entire city accountable for the services that we need and the students serve.
Thank you.
Please describe what culturally responsive leadership means to you. How will you as a leader ensure that this is embedded in our work as central office or the district staff? And how will this inform decision or investment of our curriculum and instruction work for our district?
That question. One of the things I have done and it has been proven is the curriculum. Sometimes we adults, by the curriculum, we invest in things like that, and we don't hear the students' voices. They don't see themselves reflected on the curriculum. So 3 years ago, we adopted an entire literacy curriculum where high school students actually define what they wanted in the curriculum based on culture and linguistic backgrounds. They wanted to see themselves reflected on the literacy component, on the books that we were reading, and also the writing prompts that were given to in the classroom. So that is something I would like to do here, to see what you have and see what the students' voices are to make sure that they see themselves reflected in there. The assessments is something that many people don't talk about, but that's something I want to address right away. Sometimes the way that we assess students or the questions that we ask is not culture sensitive. Sometimes the examples that we present, so that is something I want to go deeper into that, including the, I know MCAS is there, but other assessments that we provide to the students, and sometimes it's just, students don't see themselves connected, and it's the way that we present the questions, the way that we deal with the prompts. So I want to make sure that we go deeper into that, and also getting students' voices, trying to make sure that they see what we are going to present to them and have a voice. Teachers, the same thing. Teachers, and you guys know the students better than anybody else, is what are we asking the students, at what level, and is it that really sensitive to the culture of the student when we said, you have this project, it's done tomorrow, it's an essay, all these things that sometimes, we culture staff know how we actually provide or ask for assignments. So it's looking at the homework policy, what it's like for some students to be given a lot of work to read when we know that they struggle with English literacy. They are brilliant in their own language, but we're asking them to now translate and produce. So that is something I would like to find out. What are we asking the students to do at what level, and is actually culture sensitive to the level of learning. I am not saying that we are going to water down the curriculum, absolutely not. But it's actually saying, are we asking the students to translate first and then produce? And that is because that was my experience. I was given assignments that I spent all night translating, and then I had to do the assignment. And so therefore I want to make sure we remove those barriers, that we can give the assignment even in the native language of the student, so that barrier of translating what they're being asked to do is not what we're measuring. We are going to measure what actually they produce. So that is something I would like to look into. The same thing with the services. Sometimes families are very sensitive about who is going to see or talk to the students. I'm going to speak for my Guatemalan culture, is that as a female, male doctor is very hard, like they're going to touch, especially when you are a teen. And sometimes we make referrals, so we want to make sure we are very sensitive and work with agencies, to make sure that they actually reflect who our students are and get to know the families, the students, how comfortable they feel if it's a male with a female or vice versa. But we want to make sure that the students feel culture sensitive in every aspect, from academics to self.
Thank you.
Karen?
So you kind of spoke a little bit about, involving the students. So this question is, students in Lawrence want and deserve to have a voice in decision making. How would you work to include the voices of our students, including our multilingual, neurodivergent, and students with special needs or disabilities? And can you also share an example of how you've successfully done this in your prior role?
I had a meeting with the students this morning, and the same question was asked. And they expressed how frustrating it is for people to say, we want the students' voices, and we just go and ask questions in a survey, nothing happens. To me, that's wasting everybody's time and not respecting the voice of the students. So my experience has been that the voice of students go specific to policy making, and that is from the district level to the city level, because as you know, every single policy has to be approved by school committee, and that defines the DNA of the district. Students and parents and caregivers in the district I'm serving right now define the policy for cell phones, and actually it's more acceptable because it was designed, drafted by students, for students. We tweaked it a little bit to middle school and high school, and that came from students saying, you know what, I have my brother in middle school and I don't want my brother to have this phone. So that part of the dialogue was critical, and that is the policy in the Margaret Public Schools, the cell phone policy designed by students, for students, and with feedback from parents. The other one was the dress code. I know they talk about the uniform, but going back to how I involve students, we defined a committee. I went to meet with different group of students with different clubs. There are 54 of them, 56 actually. Feminism club, I went to different clubs, and they drafted the dress code for the district. It became a policy. Why? Because students are deciding, and they can reinforce that among themselves, because that's the voice and the power that they are defining things for the district and for the city. Going back to tools and how it is used, There's a program studies pre-K to 12, and students get the chance to look at the courses that we offer, and there's a back and forth dialogue with them. The parents, the same thing. A parent is the one who, together with other parents, but that was the voice of the parent, defined the homework policy. No homework for students before long weekends, before breaks, and we have very specific breaks because usually we take care of, we say social emotional components, we care about it, but we bombard students when it's vacation time, that Friday before vacation, with a lot of assignments, so the students are stressed out during that time when they're supposed to relax. So, came from students, supported by parents, drafted by parents, a policy that is going to be finalized for school committee in Malden to be voted in June, is that there's no assignment given to students before a week long break, because it's when the social emotional component is not just for adults, it's also for students. Enjoy and relax during that time. And also for parents, because if you're a parent, you know that the Friday before or the Sunday before coming back to school is the pressure. And no assessments the day when we come back from vacation. So that, once again, to the policy and how I get the students' voices. For the other students, we have a CPAC. I work very, very closely with the board. They're amazing group of people. We talk all the time. We email each other. I have to say with different boards probably every other day, trying to make sure that the policies that we have address every single student in our district, not just general ed. The multilingual students, we have LPAC, but we also have voices of students who invite me to have conversations about what languages they want to learn in school, because when you say multilingual, they are bilingual, they want either Portuguese, Spanish. Those are the two main languages in the high school in Malden, even though there's 63 languages spoken in the high school. But that's what students say, that's not what I want. I want to learn another language that is not my own language. So once again, that's how we define things by students' voice and making sure that whatever they say, we will respect, we will honor. And there are things that they didn't go, and that's having dialogue. Saying, what you're asking is really not going to be possible.
Thank you.
Fifth question is Tommy.
So Lawrence has a historical record of high staff turnover between school years. Can you please describe effective systems that you have put in place in your current or prior role to increase staff retention and or stabilize the workforce?
And I thank you for that question, because we all are facing it, right? And sometimes we have the staff in here, but they're not coming to work, or they leave in the middle of the year. How do we support them? And I think that having the referral services in the schools for staff would support more. Might not be everything, but we support some staff to stay and retain them if they know that we care and love about them. The other thing is to see who's in the classroom as a paraprofessional that we can start building skills and hire them as teachers. I would just mention different settings is to open a job readiness fair for parents and caregivers. That doesn't mean to hire, is to talk to them, find out how close they are to get a teaching certificate, how close are they to the next level in their career, where they can become teachers, support services, where they can be custodians, paraprofessionals, they can be cooks. So trying to get to know our parents, our caregivers, community members who want to work for us, and build that pipeline and to see what do they need in order to move to the next level. In the district that I'm having right now, we have MTL classes for people who want to become teachers. We give free vouchers. They have to go to this class. We have a partnership with a school, a college, that they have to go and take the courses, and then we pay for the voucher. And that's how we actually increasing the pipeline for teachers, for people to become teachers. But looking at the community, many people want to work. It's just that they don't know the entry point to the workforce in our schools. So this district is large. It has a lot of actual openings. They started hiring people within Lawrence, and that will support Lawrence more because people are working. And working in a place where they can get better benefits and a better salary. So that's what I would like to do, create a fair where it's not, and I call it job readiness, not a job fair. Because job fair means you're going for a job, and here's what do you need? Individual people to move forward and have the partners that can support them to get those skills so we can hire them.
Thank you.
Given what you know about the Lawrence community and the district, what do you see as your biggest learning curve, and how will you manage that? How will you seek support in this regard?
I think the biggest challenge would be that I'm not part of the community, and I haven't been part of the community, so to get to know the community and how every school functions. Once again, every school has a DNA, so it's like getting to know how they work, building relationships, even though I love to build relationships, but sometimes it's challenging when, sometimes things that need to happen, people don't want them to happen. Support, I always ask for help if I need it. That's one thing I want to be talking to people and saying, hey, I need this from you, can you help me? And usually I ask for help to help me learn how to do it, so I don't ask always for help. And I am not afraid to say, tell me, can you talk to me about issues that are happening? What is your background? What is your story? So I can learn about those things. And I don't like to assume things. I always ask a lot of questions, so people might get annoyed. But for me, it's trying to make sure that we are in the same understanding, because sometimes different conflicts start when you have one understanding of the situation and the district has another. So it's how do we actually come to the table, have a dialogue, and just find out how we can work together. So that's going to be a learning curve for me to actually get to have time to meet with a lot of people in a short period of time. So we are going to be ready in August to start running. I love to spend time here. I am sure you're going to see me here on weekends, and you're going to see me meeting with parents, going to faith-based organizations, because I want to be part of the community. I don't think I will make my husband move to this city because he likes the water. That is hard. We can live close to the river. But no, so you will see that is one of the challenges would be the learning that needs to take place in a very short period of time. I'm already collecting data, doing all the things, trying to catch up as much as I can now. So July 1st, I can start doing more of the technical and not so much of the adaptive.
Thank you. Well, we have asked all of our questions, and now it's your turn. If you have any questions for us.
No, absolutely. Especially because, the title is support staff. What are the challenges that you face right now when it comes to retention of staff, in student engagement, parent engagement? What are the challenges that you see?
Well, I'm not in a school building, so I, for the little ones, I will receive referrals for evaluations. I set those up, schedule those, and then once, if the child qualifies, then I work on enrollment. But something the team that I work with struggles with a lot is with staff right now. We don't have that many PT, we don't have that many OT, but we have so many with needs. We see about 400, we have about 400 referrals every year. We're at 379 right now. So the team is like overworked. There's just, for one team to see all these kids, I mean, we've been doing it, but it's like, we need another team. It's a lot of work. And then there's no more spaces in the schools to actually have these evaluations. So we only have one real location. So meetings, like staff now is probably like the biggest issue I'm seeing.
Especially so much coming out with ESY and everything. Right?
There's a lot of little ones coming out with ASD.
Yeah.
So the need is real high.
Yeah. That's something we have to run away. Yeah. Harness now.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add, as the enrollment manager here at Lawrence High School, we are seeing an influx of newcomers, students being enrolled in our district, and there is the housing insecurities, concerns that we're having. I work closely with Arlen and with Sandra when we have families that would feel comfortable enough to tell us their story. And we try to do it, but however, there is a lack of support, I feel, out there. Also with older students that are also facing health insecurity, and they have to decide whether they want to be in school or they have to work, or like those struggles. That's what we're seeing a lot. And I think our district would definitely benefit with more support for that.
That was actually a parents asked the same question, and the goal would be for me to work with the city right away to identify spaces where students can even shower. put it that way. Because school is only 5 days a week, but our students have a life that is 7 days a week. It's how do we feed them those 2 days that they're not here? Work with faith-based organizations to open basements or to open areas that we can designate as centers for students to spend the night. Because I know there are no rooms, there are no beds. I don't know in here, but everywhere we see is like, and DCF too, they're like, so that would be some work that we would have to do with the city. And there's some spaces in here that have potential for small rooms for students, but you're right, it's like, what do they do? Some of them don't have a place to shower, and they still come to school because of the food too. I mean, I see it. So yeah, it's something to work right away on, that issue. And see, I'm sure you see it. And
Yeah, it's every day, the numbers just keep increasing. And not only that, to also add the transportation, the turnaround of transportation. Like it needs to be quicker. We cannot have, we sometimes have kids out of school for 2-3 weeks because of the transportation.
The transportation that you use for schools is the same company, or you have two different contracts?
No, one company.
So it's only one?
We have one company, and then if we need to seek out, to reach out to any other vendors, we will do that, but the contract is with one.
So
They're understaffed themselves.
That company
And that
also
company
does other
understaffed as
schools.
well, right?
So
Yeah.
That's also a problem.
We had a challenge before in the other district where we had one contract and they didn't have enough people, so I said, you're going to stop contract with small people, with small groups of people, that they have 2 or 2 cars, and actually it worked, and then finally we're able to get more people, but that would be something to start looking at, subcontracting, so students have transportation is critical, so that would be to engage in conversations with, I won't ask with the vendor because I know it's being videotaped, but yeah, that would be something to start looking right away. The same thing with the assessing students. I mean, when you get the request, it's 30 days, 35 days, then you have to do it.
Yeah, a lot of time crunch. So
Absolutely.
we're always close to the edge of compliance dates, so like,
Yeah, and it's it is. Yeah. And then paying compensatory services, so just don't really work because the students need the services. I'm sorry, somebody else was going to ask another question, and
Any other questions for?
any other questions, or anything else that you want to add? So there are critical things to start looking at right away. Yes.
I mean, we do have students that, like I said, they have to choose between working and they end up dropping out because they don't have the financial support that they need at home. Always getting out. I feel that because of the community that we grew up, I mean, we all had to do like the after school job, kind of like support.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking when we have our students that have to work full time. So I think we definitely need more support for those students that, more options for them, for them to continue their education, because at the end of the day, like I always tell them, this is foundation for you to move up in life.
Correct. Yes. And I know there are alternative schools in here, right?
Yes, we do too.
With some tropical celebration programs. So that would be something that I would like to explore more. To do it a portfolio base, that you don't need each child to be in the school where they complete some of the standards-based projects, which helps a lot because then they can work full time while they're doing the work. Or you put them a timeline and things like that, and reminders, and they have to, touch in base with what somebody once a week, so you know they're working on, but it's not. They have the flexibility to work, so that would be something that we can explore. I know there are a lot of challenges, and I don't know how you did after coming back from COVID, and
Well, a shortage of housing too. Shortages of housing, like it's not just like the people coming from different countries, but
Yeah.
they're trying to find where they're gonna live. You know what I'm saying? So that's a challenge.
you have hotels in here that they were taken by the state for a little while, or no?
Not in the city of Lawrence.
Not in Lawrence.
Not in the city of Lawrence.
So that's a huge number one.
That is, yeah.
We had
that-
one for the homeless population during COVID, but this is like the older population,
Right.
where they were being housed, which is the one on 114. But I don't think that's no longer an option.
That's something, once again, the turnaround of receivership is not just the district, it's the city itself. So it's how do we work with city officials to make sure that things happen for the school, because once again, receivership, we don't want to go back there, so everybody has to roll the sleeves and give whatever we can to make sure we move forward and we support the students. if we don't take care of the basics, housing, food, most likely they're not going to be successful because they have to work or they're worried that they're not going to have food. Homeless is who wants, I mean, summer's coming up, but nobody wants to just be outside. I mean, that's something we have to really work with those students. So if I become superintendent, we have to look at data right away, look at the contracts, and also look at the services for special ed to move students forward and look at what is the off-track student like that we can provide services to them so they can continue working full time. I would never like to take somebody that is working to come to school. And I know superintendent that you might not hire me for this, but they need to feed their families sometimes. How can we think of school in a different way that they can continue getting their education while they're taking care of their families? Thank you. Thank you. And my heart is broken because I can't see these students. My hand, I can't see them.
We didn't even, I don't know, we discussed like what she was mentioning, the students, we're also talking about SLIDE students. These are SLIDE students, interrupted education. They have all these barriers, and on top of that, they leave, let's say, to DR for 4 years with no education, come back. We're trying, this is going down to 4th grade now. We're seeing SLIDE students in our district. And it's sad, right? So now we need to help them get their education. If they're getting interrupted at the same time, food, how they be in rooms, like 5, 7 families, and and I think that.
And that's something we have to, yes, life is something that.
This is when she mentioned that.
Especially when you get newcomers that comes. No, it's, I know, is that I know that high school is the goal for this, right? Yeah. But there's some ages where they have to go for something else that is more the skills that they need, and then later on come back to an evening school that would be great to open at some point for the students that have the interrupted learning or need to do other things that they have to come at night to take courses or weekends, but to provide them with the skills still to be successful. The goals that I always have is literacy and numeracy, because students need to read at grade level or approaching grade level. The same thing with math concepts. So it's how do we support those students that have that interrupted learning, gaps of years, sometimes 1 or 2 years, to give them the basic skills to be able to navigate in this world while they're also getting skills. Because there's smart students, brilliant students, and it might need some more hands-on approach and jobs, pay internships where they can be successful and continue their education at some point. That is, besides the high school diploma, we need to do something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I know, we're just coming, more questions are coming up in my head.
Okay, y esta vez no soy yo.
No, I'm actually doing very
well.
We're back until 4:30, so we're good.
This is like a level conversation. It's just because we asked other candidates, and I think we have to make it fair for the board. How important do you think is the relationship between schools and our police department? So we have 1 sergeant and 4 police officers assigned to the district. Is that something that you see it as an importance for us to continue doing, or how do you feel about that?
So you're talking about
school
resource officers. Different models work, and I have in different models. Schools where actually there are even metal detectors in schools. So there's like the layers of everything, right? I do believe that if they are the right people, the SROs are the right people that build the relationship with students, we should have them. I think that the students shouldn't be afraid of seeing somebody wearing a uniform. It should be part of like, oh my goodness, I can also be one of them. And the pipeline to the police academy, a pipeline to become detectives, the pipeline to the K-9 unit. I go through that. If I don't get the job, I might go there. So to be with the puppies. But going back, it's how we actually introduce the adults to our students. And knowing nowadays that they see police and in social media and everything, like it's like in a bad way. Exactly, it's not. It's how they actually, they're partners that we can see as models of a profession that our students can aspire to become sergeants, to become chiefs. That is something that I think we would love to continue using it here in the middle schools too, and elementary schools. And having that relationship, I see them in here, students are saying hello and everything, so that type of relationship is what matters. I don't know what happened before, but in my district at this moment, we are thinking about adding one more because it makes sense. Students love them, and they do home visits for us. We develop a communication to families when incidents happen together. So every afternoon, the sergeant and the chief send me text messages. How did they went? Like, okay, like yes. Or we need to talk. It's like, hey. But it's the communication with superintendent, and I appreciate and I respect this from the chief and the sergeant and the other SROs on how we communicate about incidents happening in school and how they communicate with families. They come and I introduce them when we have panels or open forums. They join us. We do a lot of things together, so people see the superintendent and principals together with the SROs and the board members. So it would be the same thing here. It would be nice to also see sometimes firefighters, even though I know they're so needed everybody's station, but to see them also in the hallways once in a while having lunches with students, so students can see them as role models of what they can also be. And create a pipeline. You are going to hear me talk about pipeline of what they can do after they finish school to become firefighters, to become police officers, to become detectives. Once again, can I unit? Yes. To me, it's an opportunity to showcase careers that the students can have.
We do have a junior police academy, but it's run by our SROs here, and it's hosted here at Lawrence High in July. I think it's like 2 weeks. When the students have to go through the whole police academy.
That's awesome. In one of the schools I opened at 5 CTEs, but one of them is the 911 responders. Because when you have a lot of students who are bilingual, and that's something that they don't have sometimes, you can create the academy for the 911 responders where you have computers and the students do the simulation. They go through a whole training, they get certified, and they get jobs. Because that is something that is needed in all Massachusetts. To have bilingual, trilingual staffing that immediately can connect. They also get a lot of counseling on how to navigate difficult and challenging conversations or phone calls. And I had to say that would be great to bring in here too, because the equipment is not that much, it's not that expensive, and the students love it. Once again, it's high school diploma, credentials, and a job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. And I see the little dog. Well, not little.
He's a puppy. He's like
3 years, so I just learned, and I said, well, I have a big car. I can take him. So if you don't see him,
he's our favorite SRO.
And
he goes to all the schools.
Right. So people connect because when you see that, it's like, oh, that is so nice to de-escalate situations, right? Because you don't want to act out when you go home. Well, little, I mean, I'm saying, I just want to take him home, that's it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
And don't forget, hydrate and
Yes.
sleep.
Welcome to Lawrence Public School, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Julissa Dekle, and I am a facilitator for the Multilingual Learner Department here in our district. I have been working for LPS the last 3 years. I was born and raised in Lawrence, and I'm also an alumni of LPS. At this time, all of us are going to introduce ourselves. Then you will introduce yourself,
Okay.
and then we will start our questions. And for each question, you will have 45 minutes.
4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, you are gonna have
Not
45
45 minutes.
No, 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. My name is Karen Andujar. I'm the Family Engagement Specialist and School-Based Homeless Liaison for the Parkland Complex. I'm also a mother, and this is my first year working in the school department. But I was born and raised here, went to the Lawrence Public School System, and I'm also the timekeeper.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Sandra Lewis. I was born and raised here in Lawrence. I work at the Lawrence High School as the parent homeless liaison, and I've been at the district for a little over 12 years.
Good afternoon, my name is Arlen Santiago. I am the Educational Stability Specialist for the district, so I work closely with our homeless and foster students. who fall under the McKinney Rental and the Every Student Succeed Act. I've been in the district for 16 years, raised in Lawrence, and attended Lawrence Public School.
Good afternoon, my name is Lorraine Lopez. Worked for Lawrence Public Schools for the last 3 years as the referral and enrollment specialist for the early childhood age group. Born and raised here, I'm a parent, my child attends the Lawrence Public Schools. And I've been in education here in Lawrence, working for like the last 16 years, so like Lawrence all the way.
My name is Angie Acevedo. I'm the Enrollment and Re-Engagement Manager here at Lawrence High School.
Yes.
I have worked on and off with the district for about 5 years. However, I've worked in the community for more than 18 years. I am a resident of Lawrence for more than 30 years. And I am a product of Lawrence Public Schools.
Hello, I'm Thomas Bell. I'm a district behavior analyst currently at the Parkland Complex. I've been in Lawrence for a total of 6 years, both as a special education teacher at BCBA.
Excellent.
And hi, I am Marlene Reyes. I am the school counselor at the Oliver. I was raised here and I came to Lawrence Public School.
Excellent. Well, it's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
I'm Tim Zipfel. I'm not from Lawrence. You might have known that. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, originally. I went through public schools in Cincinnati, because that's where I'm from. And I really got a great education there, and along the way realized that not everybody in my city, not everybody in my schools was getting what they were supposed to. And my high school was a very, very large high school, 2,800 students, and it didn't have a very good reputation in the community. I had a good experience there. I felt safe there, but when people would talk about it in the city, I was like, what are you talking about? That's my school. But then I realized, talking with my teachers as I was getting older and closer to graduation, that there were some problems at the school, and there were some problems in the city that were undermining the success of that school. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do something about that someday. And then I ended up becoming a teacher because when I was in elementary school, my parents enrolled me in a bilingual program. This was a new thing back in 1970. But I started learning Spanish when I was in first grade. And I stuck with it all the way through high school and then on into college. My junior year of college, I studied in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Viví con una familia que no hablaba inglés. Estudié todas las materias en español y leí el diario todos los días en español y poco a poco aprendí de verdad cómo hablar español. And so after that year of really becoming fluent in Spanish and then graduating from college, I was looking for a job and they needed bilingual Spanish teachers in Los Angeles. And so I'd never been to California, but off I went. And I worked in South Los Angeles as a classroom teacher for 10 years and a total of 14 years in South LA. Loved the community, loved that place, loved the families, and just really fell in love with everything about it and being an educator and making a difference in kids' lives. Pasadena is up the freeway past Dodger Stadium from downtown LA, and I worked there for 12 years and was a high school principal there. In a very high needs school, and we saw that school turn around and really begin to thrive with an early college program and career technical education programs that were integrated with the academics, similar to your pathways that you have here. And things were great, and then I was admitted to a doctoral program here in Massachusetts. And so I, my wife, my 2 sons who were going into 8th grade and 4th grade at the time, we put everything in storage or we sold it, and we just, including our cars, and we just moved to Massachusetts. And my son, especially my older son, had a really rough time that first year going into 8th grade, really rough time. But he eventually started to like it in Massachusetts. I'm like, okay, we're not moving again. I want to graduate from high school here, and so we've made Massachusetts our home. And since graduating from my doctoral program, I've been working in Worcester, and which is an amazing city, very diverse city, some similarities to Lawrence in terms of the population that we serve. I currently oversee 13 schools in that district as a part of the superintendent leadership team. And I love making a difference for kids who really rely on public education to make a difference for them, to really give them opportunities to thrive and to grow and to have a chance to do whatever they want to do. And for some families, they get that, a lot of it from home. Or from some families, there may be resources that they don't need the school as much. But the communities where I want to make an impact and where I've chosen to work are communities that really rely on the schools to do a lot of that. And that's why I'm interested in being with Lawrence.
Thank you.
So, sorry for the long introduction.
No,
but I wanted to share that with you.
no, thank you, Timothy. I have the first question. Can you please share your top 2 goals as Lawrence Superintendent in your first year? And how will you work to build relationships and community with our community you've selected? And please try to be specific as possible about your approach, techniques, or any tools you will use to communicate and build relationships with staff and community.
So thank you for the question. The superintendent, it's a different role from the standpoint that it's really important that the superintendent be on the same page with the leadership of the community. And right now, the leadership in the community is the Lawrence Alliance for Education Board, and then the commissioner, which works, is working with them. And there's the desire among many in the community to see that receivership be something that's in the rearview mirror and really begin to look forward to the city and the district having control over its own destiny. I think that it's going to be really important for me during my first year to build relationships with all of those people who are going to be making those decisions, to really build a relationship with the mayor, make sure that he trusts me and I know where he stands on the key things that are most important to him. And the Alliance Board also making sure that I'm on the same page with them and the direction that I'm beginning to move things forward, or the things that I'm learning as I'm getting to know the district and getting to know how things are done, that I'm sharing that and there's a transparent exchange of ideas with that board. And then things are going to begin to play out as far as what the new leadership structure will be, whether it's a return to a fully elected school committee or whether there's a hybrid version of partly appointed or partly elected. And that's not my decision or any of our decisions. That's for the city council and the mayor and the state legislature. They all have to decide that, but it's going to be a little bit of a moving target to make sure that I'm in building relationships with all of those people so that no matter how things pan out, no matter how things turn out, I'm able to execute what the vision that they have for the district is. I think that vision for what the district is, that next version, if you will, of the district's plan, of the strategic plan or improvement plan. We have this turnaround plan that the district has had for the last 12 years, which has been changed. There's a need to really use this transition as an opportunity to take a step back and say, what do we want our students to have when they graduate from Lawrence Public Schools? And what do we need to do as a district in order to make sure that that happens? A lot of the things that are in the turnaround plan are great things, and we want to keep those things going. But there are some things maybe that we need, this is an opportunity for us to adjust and to tweak, and some things maybe that we just haven't thought of before that we could begin to add to the district's work. That process of figuring out what we want to keep, what we want to add, what we want to take away, is something that all staff need to be a part of, that teachers need to be a part of, that the building administrators need to be a part of, and very importantly, that families and students need to be a part of as well. We don't want to assume that we know. I've shared with some of the other panels that the school where I was a principal, we had some difficulty at times getting parents to come to meetings. And you'd have the agenda, and you'd have the snacks, and you'd have everything lined up, and then you'd have the childcare. And then hardly anybody would show up. And the childcare person was just, you know, entertaining herself or himself. We had some strategies to really get parents who were not coming to meetings to be more aware of the opportunities to become involved in the school. And we also had ways to make sure that we were scheduling those opportunities at times that was convenient for them. And so those are really important. I know that you in Lawrence for this process of choosing a new superintendent, and then also for the Student Opportunity Act budget, there was a lot of input from the community and from parents through surveys. 32, thank you. And so that's another way to include parents in those decisions. But I think those are the relationships with the political leadership, relationships with principals, and then cultivating relationships and opportunities to give authentic input with parents and students and other staff. That would be my priority coming into the district.
Thank you. Sandra has the second question.
Understanding that Lawrence is exiting receivership in the next few years and the impact that this will have financially for our district, how will you work to ensure that the quality of services is not compromised as we move forward towards implementing our cost savings cutting measures? Again, please be as specific as possible, including sharing examples of how you managed this in your prior role.
So, first of all, I'm not 100% certain that exiting receivership will necessarily mean a reduction in funding, because there may be some grants that the district receives or has had preferential consideration for because of its status, but I don't know that the overall budget will be impacted as much from exiting receivership as we might think. Having said that, you never know. And right now in Worcester, we're experiencing, unfortunately, a $22 million reduction in our budget, which is about 4% of the operating budget. The budget in Worcester is about $450 million, and so 22 million is a lot. What we have done, what we are doing, is really engaging a lot of stakeholders in the process of determining how to make those adjustments. And what that has looked like is asking parents, for example, okay, what are the things that are that you think we might be able to consider cutting, but we won't be happy about it, but it's not going to have as much of an impact on the education we're providing our students. And then a second category, tier 2, if you will, what are the things that if we cut that, that's going to be more painful. But I could see why, if that's necessary, we could cut that also. And then tier 3 is like, hands off, don't touch that. Last resort, don't touch these things here because we want to make sure that we don't affect the priorities that we've established. So, and the interesting thing is like talking to parents and then talking to principals and then talking with teachers, talking with students, there were different ideas of what fell into those different buckets. And because people have different vantage points and different perspectives. And so what our role as a district leadership was to take those various ideas and various perspectives and make a decision that we thought was a good compromise for how to move things forward. One thing, for example, we call them wraparound coordinators in Worcester, but it's a building-based position of an individual, and every school has one now, who is able to connect families with resources in the community, resources with the city, especially families that are new to the community who just don't know how things work. These people typically do speak the language, or at least one of the languages of the community besides English, and are able to make those connections for families. Some of our stakeholders were like, okay, I don't want to cut any classroom teachers. I don't care how low the class sizes are. We don't want to cut any classroom teachers. Let's cut the wraparound coordinators. And some of our parents were like, no. I mean, if the class sizes are that low, we could increase the class sizes a little bit so that they're reasonable. Thank you. But the wraparound coordinators, those are things that are mission critical. We need to keep that. And so we had to weigh those things, and we ended up maintaining all of our wraparound coordinators and making compromises in other areas to safeguard that priority. And that's just an example of how we've engaged parents and community in those conversations. Mm-hmm.
Question number 2. Please describe what culturally responsive leadership means to you. How will you as a leader ensure that this is embedded in our work as central office or district staff? And how will this informed decision around curriculum and instruction work for our district?
Okay. So culturally responsive, as I understand it, and as I've understood it in my practice, is making sure that the way we do things is mindful of the culture of the students that we serve. Their backgrounds, their language, their where they've come from, their customs, what they like to eat. I mean, the whole 9 yards. That not every student is the same, and the degree to which we can be really mindful of who our students are in every aspect of their identity is going to strengthen our ability to establish a positive relationship with them and give them access to what we're trying to provide. I think it's also a way that, and so part of it has been working with teachers and helping them to not make, or just to be able to be aware of the assumptions that they might unintentionally make about who their students are without really understanding where they've come from, and really encouraging them to be curious about who their students are and really inviting them to bring their whole selves into the classroom and into the school as a whole. Schools can do that. Definitely curriculum is important, and there are, for example, we have a new English language arts curriculum, which I think a lot of the schools in Lawrence are using to amplify CPLA. And it's a great curriculum. It's really, really good, and our students are really thriving with it, and teachers are getting used to it. And it's not, for every unit, it's not always the most culturally responsive, or it doesn't always reflect the culture of the students that we have who are coming into the classroom. And so one way that we've mitigated that or supplemented it is by identifying other resources and other stories, other books that students can also read that do reflect the cultures that they bring to the classroom. I think another thing is to make sure that there are student organizations and other opportunities within the school where their cultures can be celebrated, where they can learn more about their cultures, ideally where they can learn about each other's cultures. And because I know even within the Latino community, there are multiple cultures. And so it's important for students to be able to get to know each other and to learn across all lines of difference in that way. And student organizations and celebrations are important ways that can be done in addition to the curricular measures within the classroom.
Karen?
Students in Lawrence want and they deserve to have their voices heard when making decisions. How would you work to include the voices of our students, including our multilingual, neurodivergent, and students who have special needs or disabilities? And can you also share an example of how you've successfully done this in your prior role?
Thank you. So as a district leadership team in Worcester, one of our favorite days each month is Superintendent Advisory. And it's the typically the first Thursday of each month. And we have 7 high schools in Worcester, and so we rotate around to a different high school each month. And they host and they share about their school, but then the students from all 7 high schools converge in that place. We have breakfast, we have an agenda, we're engaging them in conversations about identity and diversity. We're engaging them also to get input from them about policies that are being considered at the school committee level. For example, cell phone policy, these are some ideas that are on the table. what do you all think about this? What do you think your peers would say? And honestly, that day, it's just awesome because you see these students from all these multiple high schools interacting with each other and really finding their voice and feeling the affirmation of being recognized as people who have ideas and are being treated as equals by the superintendent and the leaders of the district. And it's really, really cool to see the diversity also. And we do have students, there's a young man who I believe I'm not sure what program he's in. He's a neurodivergent student, but he's, he just interacts in a little bit of a different way than a lot of the other students. And he's just wonderful and was able and fully welcomed and accepted by the other students. And there are students who are learning English also, who are also part of that. I think that's a, out of, oh gosh, we've got, probably in each grade level in Worcester across the whole district, like 1,700, 1,800 students, like it's just 12th grade and just 11th grade. And so, those 50, 60, 65 students who come together on a monthly basis, it's a small number of students relative to the overall number of students in our high schools. But they really do bring forth ideas from their own student government, from their respective schools, and also they really do channel the voice of the broader student population. And it's just really, really refreshing. But making sure that that's happening, I think that it's really important for the superintendent to have direct contact with students in that way. And for, we didn't get off the ground this year, but we're looking at doing that with middle school students next year. To make sure that students know that the adults who are running the system care about what they think and care about what their experiences are, and really are curious about what they think and what they think about how the district's serving them. So those are one big example, which has been very powerful for us, and it has, the input from the students has also influenced decisions we've made around different policies that we recommended as a school committee. And when that happens and we're able to reflect that back to them, they feel even more affirmed and validated in their role and in their participation in the decision-making process and as people and thinking about what they might do in the future.
So Lawrence has a historical record of high staff turnover between school years. Can you please describe effective systems that you put into place in your current or prior role to increase staff retention and or stabilize the workforce?
So when I was a high school principal, wow, we had a lot of turnover initially at that school. I think, and I remember this pretty clearly because we did an accreditation report my last year there. We showed this data for the accrediting, like NIAS you have here. It's called something different in California, but we had maybe like a third of the teachers who were turning over from one year to the next. There was at least a quarter of the teachers, which is a lot. By the end of my 5 years as a principal there, we only had like 2 or 3 teachers that were turning over from one year to the next. Like the things had really stabilized. And I mean, I think there's so much that goes into that, but definitely making sure that teachers and all staff are in a place where they feel respected, where they are able to do their best work, where expectations are clear and the expectations are fair, where there is consultation and collaboration, that people feel like they have a voice, teachers and the staff feel like they have a voice in how the school is being run. And even if the principal at the end of the day feels that something needs to be done that people don't necessarily agree with, at least they feel like they've been heard and they can understand why the decision was made to go in the direction that it was. I really think, I mean, there's I don't know who wrote this, but someone said people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. And I mean, that happens, right? And so I think creating a culture that's collaborative and inclusive and where people feel respected and supported in their roles, I think that's the most critical thing. To that end, I think one very tangible action that can be taken, if it's not already being taken, is to engage people in exit interviews. Okay, you're leaving. We wish you luck, but before you go, why are you leaving? You know, can you give us some feedback on what would have made a difference for you? You know, I understand. Okay, you live 40 miles away. I get that. Okay, that makes sense. Or oh, you just had a baby and you don't have anyone in your family to watch them. Okay, I get that. But sometimes there's other things that are going on, and if there are things that we have within our control that we can do something about, childcare might be one of them. But we should know what those reasons are, and so engaging people in conversation when they make the decision to leave. That's another way that we can be proactive with our current and future employees to not lose them.
Given what you know about the Lawrence community and the district, what do you see as your biggest learning curve, and how will you manage that? How will you seek support in this regard?
So it's a big city. It's a big city, and I mean Worcester's a big city too. So I like big. LA's a decent sized city also, but I wasn't superintendent in Los Angeles. I think what I would especially love to learn from people in roles like yours is how do parents get information? How do parents, how are those perceptions of the district shaped? And what are the best ways for a superintendent to build relationships, direct relationships with the community? As a high school principal, you know, I was sending an automated phone call and an email every Sunday night, just like, hey, this is what's happening this week, and they got to expect that as a cadence every Sunday night. They would get a call from me in English and Spanish, and and it was a way for us to create, even though there were, you know, hundreds of students in the school, there was a way for me to make that connection directly with parents, such that when they would meet me in person for the first time, they hear my voice and they go, you're the one that called on Sunday night. I'm like, that's me. Guilty, you know. And one parent told me that his wife said, oh, that's her Sunday night pep talk. That's what she loved, because I'd be like, go Mustangs, you know. And then we would have other opportunities. We did, with our incoming 9th grade class, we organized teams of teachers, alumni, students, other parents and volunteers to actually go into the community and to give a little goodie bag of like information about the school, inviting them to an open house. And we actually knocked on the doors to give them this, to let them know, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you next year. And you don't need to go across town. You don't need to go to private school. You don't need to go to charter school. We got a home for you right here at our school. And this is your home school. And so we'd love to show you around and let you see what the school is like. Or better yet, come on a Friday morning for a tour of the building and see what it's like. That worked there. But I would be leaning on people like you who really have grown up here and know the community well. What are the best ways to make those connections? Is it going to the baseball field during Little League? Is it going to football games? Or is it going to, I mean, there are certain events and certain things where a lot of people go naturally. And if there were a place like that where, thank you, I wouldn't be a distraction, that it would be a way that I could, like a fair or whatever it might be, that I could use that as an opportunity to meet people and and begin to build relationships with people on a direct basis, that would be something that I would really love to do.
We're now done with all of our questions. If you now you have the opportunity to ask us any questions. There might be other questions that we might have at the end of this one.
I know I was with the principals earlier today, and they invited me to ask. I asked a question, and then I ended up getting another question back. I'm
That's
like,
gonna
okay.
happen, so just be aware.
I'm just kidding.
It happened with the
Because that's more. It's more of a conversation now.
Yeah,
and that's-
it
that's
becomes
what-
more like
that's
we're done
what
with.
That's what it's all about. Just going around again. I know Partham, right? Oliver Partham. Partham. And everyone else here. Okay. And Lawrence High.
Central office.
We're central office staff, housed at different buildings,
Okay.
not at a school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a family resource center, right?
It's a central office.
Okay. And one family resource center for the whole district?
Well, there's a mini version at my site just for the preschool kids.
Got it.
So my team does preschool enrollment, we do evaluations, so that's at like another location, temporary location for now.
And when any parent comes to the district and they want to enroll their child, do they go to the family resource center?
If it's K and up, no, if it's K to 8, and then
The high school.
here for the
High
high
school's
school,
here.
and if it's preschool with me.
Okay.
But we do work together, especially for the summer, to have open enrollment nights for K through 12, because we have parents that have
Yes.
all grades.
And you made a comment about a program that you guys have in Worcester. I forget what it's called, but it's to give families resources.
Wraparound
Wraparound
coordinator.
coordinator.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so we kind of have, that's kind of like what I do at our school, family resources.
Yep.
Give books to the families.
Just curious about just the systems and the infrastructure. And so your position, is there someone like you at every school?
Yes.
That's great.
We call them, what's the title?
So we all have a different variation of the same title, so she's like a parent liaison.
Which is the same responsibility
Yeah.
As a family engagement specialist,
Just different titles.
but every school has one.
Okay. That's great.
And also every school now, well, some of the schools now have a school-based homeless liaison to provide those resources for students who are homeless or newcomers.
Okay.
Social worker, harassment.
Okay. And I know that someone in your role, I mean, I have a team, so I have the south quadrant of Worcester. That's where all my 13 schools are. They're in the southwest part of the city, which is, I mean, there are lots of parts of Worcester that have a lot of economic challenges, but there's a lot in where I work, where my schools are. But each quadrant of the district has a team, an interdisciplinary team, and there's a PCBA, there's special education coaches, multilingual coaches, to really support the schools and meeting the needs of students. And so I have a called the Q team, and they're awesome. And I guess that, I think I saw in the Student Opportunity Act presentation that they're planning to hire more board certified behavior analysts. Is that right?
Yeah, the goal is to have us be school-based.
Okay.
I think it happened too quickly, so I think it has to be kind of backed up and then built, but that's the goal.
Okay. Very good. I have a lot to learn, but I'm really delighted to spend this time with you, and I'm hopeful that things will work out and I'll get to know you a lot better.
Are there any school resource officers in Worcester?
So, just before I started, the city council made the decision to pull school resource officers out of the high schools. And the district and the police department negotiated a memorandum of understanding to have school liaison officers instead. And so the difference is that these officers, they're quadrant based, so there's one officer who supervises or supports all the schools in my quadrant, pretty much. And but he's not. He doesn't have an office in the school, and he's not in the building unless there's a need for him to be there. And since there's only one of him, he typically bounces around quite a bit. He knows the students and knows the administration well enough to build relationships with them, but it's very different from the setup we have here. And it's actually pretty impressive to see what I saw today anyway, the way the officers that I saw in action interacted with students and seemed really, really comfortable and accepted by the students that I saw.
Saw the answer.
And I saw my answer. We have Honey. Honey is she's a support dog. She's actually in a special education classroom at my high school, my largest high school. She's a sweetheart. So different breed than Lancer, but those are kind of cool, cool resource to have. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, likewise. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you for investing in this process, and hopefully I'll see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Lawrence Public School, Ms. Gonzalez de Castillo. Okay. Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Julissa Decle, and I'm a facilitator for the multilingual learner department in our district. I have been working for Lawrence Public School in the last 3 years, but I'm also an alumni of LPS and also born and raised here as well. I like to say I don't live in Lawrence, but my brain is always here. At this time, I'm going to have all of my colleagues introduce themselves. They'll say their role, how long they've been at Lawrence Public Schools, and as well, once they're done, you will introduce yourself, and then we will start with the questions. And for each question, you will have 4 minutes. 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
4 minutes. One. Okay. Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Enderman. I am the Family Engagement Specialist and Homeless Liaison for the Parkland Elementary School. This is my first year working in the school system, but I was born and raised here, went to Lawrence Public School systems, and I have children who are in the system as well.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, my name is Sandra Ruiz. I work at Lawrence High School. I am the parent and homeless liaison here. Been with the district for a little over 12 years, and also born and raised in Lawrence.
Awesome.
Good afternoon, my name is Arden Santiago. I'm the Educational Stability Specialist. I've been with the district for 16 years. I work closely with our homeless and foster students upon the McKinney-Vento and Every Student Succeed Act. Raised in Lawrence and attended Lawrence Public Schools.
Excellent. Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Lopez. Born and raised here in Lawrence, also a resident, also a parent of a child in the Lawrence Public Schools. I've been with LPS for 3 years, worked in this community in education for the last 16 years, and I'm currently the referral and enrollment specialist for like our preschool age group.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening. My name is Angie Acevedo. I'm the Enrollment and Re-Engagement Manager here at Lawrence High. I have worked with the district for about 5 years on and off. However, I've worked in the community for more than 18 years. I am a resident of Lawrence. I have lived in Lawrence for more than 30 years. And I am also a product of Lawrence Public Schools. Excellent.
I'm Thomas Fowle, District 8 Analyst, currently at the Parkland Complex. I've worked in Lawrence for a total of 6 years, 5 as a special education teacher and 1 as a PCBA.
Hola, my name is Marlene Clayes, and I've been in the school worked at the school for 5 years. I'm the school counselor at the Oliver. I was raised here, and I came to from school.
Very nice. Thank you all for having me today. I am Dr. Alma Gonzalez de Castillo. I am one of your superintendent finalists. I've been in education for 20 years. The majority of the years have been as a teacher, as an assistant principal, as a principal, and 5 years as an assistant superintendent. And so I am so joyful and thankful for you all giving me this warm welcome and being before you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I have the first question. Can you please share your top 2 goals as Lawrence Superintendent in your first year? How will you work to build relationships and community with a community if selected? Please be as specific as possible about your approach, techniques, and any tools you will use to communicate and build relationships.
Yes, absolutely. So
First and foremost, I did not bring the cards. Okay, I have some cards where it talks about my entry plan. I'll give those to you after, but I would like to first and foremost recognize that when the superintendent search process began, I was very attuned to the ask of the community, and the community has a couple of asks that they would like their superintendent to achieve within those 5 years. And two of those asks that I would like to focus here, and if I'm selected in my work in Lawrence, is one to build the relationships and be visible with the community and have conversations where we can talk about what are the challenges that you're facing, what are those opportunities that are present, and what do you need from me, what resources are needed for you to be successful in your roles and your jobs. And so one of the asks from our community was that they wanted the superintendent to be visible, to be present, and to be culturally aware of our Lawrence community. And so that is definitely one of my goals. And in my entrance plans, you will see that for the first 6 months, I will be dedicating myself to ensure that I am vulnerable with you. First, to say that I recognize that I am from Texas and I am an outsider, and two, that you have the historical knowledge and that I will be learning from you how I can better show up and prepare for you so that I can facilitate the work that you do. Excuse me. So that would be one of the goals. The second goal that came across to me in the superintendent search from the community was that our community has a strong desire to provide social and emotional supports for our students. And so that's been coming across with different stakeholder groups that I've been meeting with. And so with the first stakeholder group with our parents, what I told them that at a minimum, what I would like to do is to create with your assistance a resource map to make sure that we map out the resources that we have available in our community so that we can respond to our students in a very timely manner and ensure that they have the supports that they need so that they can be successful and be safe first and foremost. And so, being that my second goal, I would like to engage in again collaboration and meeting with all of you to design that work and map out what are those resources that we have, that we're using, that we don't have, and that we should tap into. And so that's minimal work, of course, for us to address the social and emotional needs of our students. It takes deeper level of work, and so we would be holding this type of conversations and having really rigorous discussions about and what else, right, and what else is needed. And so, what are the tools that I would use? And to be quite honest, I will tell you the way my mind works. My mind works in a linear thinking process, very strategic. So I often start with the end in mind and create a backwards approach to identifying action steps of how we can get to achieve those goals. And so I would like to develop a strategic plan, right, with the end in mind, and then you help me design where those action steps that we can take to reach those goals. And so communication will be a two-way communication. I'm a fan of social media and every other communication and access point for us to have transparent and honest conversations all of the time. I truly believe that I need to be the one communicating to you what is going on in the district at all times.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Sandra?
Understanding that Lawrence is exiting receivership in the next few years and the impact that this will have financially for our district, how will you work to ensure the quality of services is not compromised as we move towards implementing cost-saving cutting measures? Again, please be as specific as possible, including sharing examples of how you managed this in your prior role.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I would do is to have an analysis and create budget committee meetings where folks that are interested in identifying where our money is going, have that work in front of them, and then ensuring that it reveals a story. So it's often said that where our money goes is a story that's being told. And so we want to identify where is our money currently going and what are those priorities that we hold near and dear to our hearts, and what hard choices and what options do we have to move money around to make sure that the most essential programs and supports are remaining intact within our district. So I'll tell you currently in Texas, we're going through a financial struggle because our governor is not wanting to provide the funding that's required for districts. So a lot of districts are in a bind right now, having to make really hard decisions. But I'll tell you the processes that I've been involved in is again having those hard conversations with different stakeholders. So we always start with a budget committee meeting and say, these are our numbers, these are our expenditures, these are our enrollment, these are the resources that we have, and then enable for us to sustain the same level of work that we're doing. These are the action steps or the decisions that it calls for. And so within these constraints, what are you willing to bring to the table and have a conversation about? And so just in the past year, we engaged in conversations with our principals so that they could decide and start a ranking process of what are those priorities that they want to keep or what are those things that we could do without, and then start allocating money amounts to them so that we would know what are those costs and how much of those cost saving would yield us to our goal of sustaining those programs that are essential for us. And so again, I'm a firm believer in being very transparent, very honest, and having conversations with you no matter how hard there is, but also being very vulnerable about it to say, hey guys, we're in this state, this is where we're at, I need your help to solve this complex problem. What are your options? What can we navigate through? What do you anticipate that we can do to ensure that we have the right amount of support moving forward, regardless of what funding looks like?
Please describe what culturally responsive leadership means to you. How will you as a leader ensure that this is embedded in our work as central office and district staff? And how will this inform decision around curriculum and instruction work for our district?
Absolutely. So cultural responsive leadership for me, I also call it cultural competent leadership, is understanding our families and understanding their beliefs, their values, their practices, and their cultural funds of knowledge and their assets that they bring with them. And it's not until we understand our families and our students that we will be able to make best decisions that are aligned to their needs and how they operate and their values and so on and so forth. So for me as a leader, right, it is important, one, to submerge myself in the Lawrence community to understand how as a cultural competent leader, my frame of reference is really situated in how the majority of our students in the community operate. And so it is my understanding we have the majority of our students to be Dominicans, and then we have Puerto Ricans, and then I'm not sure what are the other student groups, but in order for us to be cultural competent, we have to have that awareness of what it means for our students to be Latinos and how our families operate and how they unite and they celebrate life, right? And so their language, their cultural practices, their traditions, their faith, all of that comes into a component where we're making decisions. And so what I would like to do is not make a one size approach all to the decision making process and say, oh, we're going to use this program or we're going to adopt this curriculum. Because at the end of the day, if there is no collaborative way for us to have all of the voices be represented at the table, then we're going to miss the mark and we're not going to have the buy-in. And very important, we can make mistakes that can last years, right? And so to undo those mistakes and make those decisions, it is very harmful for our communities. And in no way do I want to engage in that type of work without first understanding our students and our families. And so I say all of that because I would like to provide an example. During COVID, in our communities, I saw a lot of our high school students who had two options, right? Option one was stay home and take care of their siblings while their parents figure out how to survive during the pandemic. And then the other option was go to work, but also try to figure out a way how to comply with the demands of a brick and mortar expectation of being in school and having to be attentive. And it's not until we realize that our family dynamics of Latino students, it's a communal approach, and where we see ourselves engaged and our students engaging, wanting to support their families and be contributing to families, where we have to design flexible policies for them to engage and get away from the policy that a brick and mortar is the only way to develop teaching and learning. It's not until we're going to be innovative to find ways to reach these students who are stuck in the middle of having to choose between school and family. And so I'll tell you that because I am very well aware that most are fluent students. They're engaged in online learning while they're traveling with their families or engaging in extracurricular activities or exploring the world. And so if we know that this is something that's working for students who are high affluent, then we must be innovative and be vulnerable and want to try innovative things to ensure that we break down barriers for students who are engaging in work, who are taking care of siblings, and at the same time they want to be successful. And we shouldn't be penalizing them because their schedule or their way of life or the way they're supporting their family does not fit an 8 to 5 brick and mortar old way of doing school. And so, I don't know if I answered the question, but I hope I did. If I missed anything, please ask me or remind me, okay? Yes.
Okay, so students in Lawrence want and deserve to have a chance for their voices to be heard in decision making. How would you work to include the voices of our students, including our multilingual, neurodivergent, and students with disabilities or special needs? And can you please share an example of how you specifically done this in your role?
Yes, absolutely. So when I met with the students, first and foremost, the students that I met with, they were all girls, right? And that is something to be applauded because I'm seeing the Latina leadership skills in our young girls, and I applaud that. One of my questions was, where are the boys, and why are the boys not present? And so I asked that question because oftentimes we oversee that our boys are not engaged, and it's important for us to create opportunities for them to be at the table too, and understand that our boys operate differently. And I say that because I've seen that in my work with the high schools that I currently serve. And so what we've been able to do is create a mentoring program that's called Men of Excellence, where we bring the boys together, and we create opportunities for us to have conversations of what are your goals, where do you want to be, and how can we partner up with industries to help you get there. My goal for our students is for them to see themselves in spaces where they're not usually represented, and it is up to us to create those spaces for them to get into these campuses and these industries and these organizations where they can see themselves that they belong and that they have the skills and the assets to ensure that they're successful. And so I would like to create those opportunities to ensure that I hear all of the voices of our students, boys and girls, and neurodivergent and our ELs by showing up and having cafecitos and pans with them, right? And just having conversations of that you're telling me that this is a challenge for you. Help me understand. Let me learn from you. And what does this look like? And I will tell you that because in our high school, there's also been an expression that they want some safety and security uniforms in their schools, right? And so one of the initiatives that was implemented was that every student needed to wear an ID. And so we didn't ask our students if that was something that made them feel safe. We as leaders just made that assumption. And so when we try to go into schools and we try to implement the ID policy because it's a part of the safety and security model that we wanted to implement. You would hear from the students that the ID doesn't serve a purpose, and that there's other technologies out there, right, that serve a purpose to ensure that our students use the ID for things that are valuable to them, to take attendance, to have access to books, to tap into the cafeteria, or to have access to certain rooms where they study halls and so on and so forth. And so when we implement policies or structures or systems where the voices of our students are not represented, I'm almost going to be starting to say that we're going to fail because we're not taking in consideration their experiences and whether or not we're adding value to that, right? So something as simple as just writing an ID to wear it versus using technologies. So all of the students have phones. And currently at a national conference in San Diego, I learned about a technology that's used that does the same thing, but that our students use the phone instead of carrying their IDs, as they use it in their banks, at the airport, to order a DoorDash and X, Y, and Z. And so know that our students are poised to be 21st century leaders and need these skills. And so it's important for us to acknowledge the gap of how we want to operate and implement policies to what our students are using now. And so all of that to say is that I would like to create spaces to have conversations with all of our students, our ELs, our neurodivergent, our leaders, our gifted students, and everyone who can bring a voice to the table and help us understand the experiences that they're having in our schools. Because if we're failing them, then we have to rethink the way we're doing things. You're welcome.
So Lawrence has a historical record of high staff turnover between school years. Can you please describe effective systems that you have put in place in your current or prior role to increase staff retention and or stabilize the workforce?
Yes, absolutely. And so one of the things I would like to start with is to analyze the exit surveys of our staff. I would want to know why they're leaving. What is it that we're not doing for them? And the reasons for leaving, right? And so once I have a background knowledge of what's been occurring, I would also like to assess the culture and climate of our schools, the resources that are provided to our teachers, our buildings, our maintenance, the technology that's provided to them, and most importantly, ask whether or not they're seated at the table to be decision makers. Oftentimes, our teachers want to be part of the decision making process. They have the ideas, they have the tools, they have the skills, they have the experiences. They work with our students to tell us what works and what doesn't work. And so if Alma Gonzalez de Castillo comes in and says, oh, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm not incorporating the voices of our teachers in the decision-making process, guess what, guys? At the end of the day, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail because I'm not listening and learning from you and taking your advice of how we should roll out policies, programs, and systems. So it's very important that our teachers are sitting at the table and have those decision-making powers, but at the same time, that I have an analysis of the schools surrounding Lawrence and ensure that I understand, the compensation plans that they're using to keep their staff and what is it that we can do different in Lawrence to be very competitive and top notch in the sense of how we are rolling out compensation. Another of the things that I would like to explore is how well we're developing our own teachers. What are those pathways, right? So, truth be told, is that a component and tenet of a good leader is that we create more leaders, and so then what are those pathways for our paraprofessionals, our teachers, our district leaders, so that they can get the knowledge and skills to be moving up and growing our own staff within our district. So that would be like a retention practice that I would like to engage in, and that's what we're doing in our current district. I was able to support the formulation of what we call the teacher incentive allotment, which provides the spending power of our teachers based on their evaluation compounded with student growth. And about 60% of our teachers currently are earning 30 plus 30 grand plus on top of their current salary, just based on the work that they're doing with our students. And so, what are those incentive allowance out there that we can bring in? Aside from that, I would like to explore also universities, colleges, perhaps create our own P-Tech Academy here for what we can call Lawrence the future leaders or future teachers, and start having a pathway for our students who want to be educators. And the student group that I talked to, there was one particular young woman who said, I want to come back to Lawrence. I want to be an educator. I want to be a teacher, right? And immediately my mind went to, well, so that you're going to have a job, you got the next superintendent here. But between now and then, what do I have to do to ensure that she's prepared to come back and teach her kiddos, right? So I would like to make an assessment of, and if we have that program, if we don't have a program, and how can we jumpstart some of those things.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Given what you know about the Lawrence community and the district, what do you see as your biggest learning curve, and how will you manage that? How will you seek support in this regard?
Yes, absolutely. So I think I've shared with you, being vulnerable, that I am an outsider. I'm coming from Texas. I'm also Mexicana, right? And so one of the things that I would want to do is show up for you and have conversations where it provides an opportunity for you to get to know me and I can get to know you. And so I come in knowing that that is an area of growth for me, and so I'm not afraid to engage in that work and be vulnerable about it, to say, hey guys, I'm really not sure, help me understand, or guide me through this process, or how has it been historically, and where do you anticipate the next move will be, and what would be the best way for me to move forward. And so with that said, I would like to form relationships and collaborate and find myself a good mentor that can help me navigate Massachusetts and understand its structures and the way that things that work here. So, as a Latina trying to survive the world, you become very resourceful and you find a way forward. And so it's asking for help, finding those partnerships, being vulnerable, and being okay to say, I don't know, let me find out and get that information for you, and create that safe space to take risk no matter what the outcome is, and fail forward and be okay with that. Say, I tried, it didn't work out, but I'm not giving up. I'll come back to you and make sure that I do it better the next time around. And so that would be from the onset an area of growth for me. And so just realizing and being humanistic about the fact that we're all human, and we can grow and we can learn from each other, is where it's at. And that's my firm belief in ensuring that if I am selected, I come in with that humanistic approach to tap onto all of you within knowledge and skills to guide the way forward, and to say, oh God, that's a bright idea, but guess what? Why don't you think about this and that? So,
Essentially, the last question. We might have more though. But we want to give you this opportunity if you have any questions for us, and then we can start a conversation in the next 1 minute.
yeah, no, absolutely. What are you looking for your next superintendent of schools? What is your desire? What do you want to see before you? What are your needs?
Well, definitely someone present, right, with not just like the students, but the parents. A lot of parents, there's parent engagement kind of lacks, at times. So someone that can make the parents feel comfortable enough to come into conversations, come join leadership groups, things like that. And then someone who can also understand what the support staff actually does. We're kind of like the worker bees, and we get forgotten about sometimes.
Like, honestly, unsung heroes. We're like the hidden heroes. Nobody knows about.
I love the fact that you mentioned, being visible.
Yeah.
So our current superintendent, we were at a training in Nashville, and my group, they kept talking about, the staff that was there and all that. I'm like, oh, well, our superintendent is here. And the fact that our superintendent was there for them was shocking. And I thought, well, my superintendent wouldn't have to do that. My superintendent wouldn't have to show up, stuff like that. But we were able to, we were so happy that, we were represented. Recently, I finished a Latino for Education fellowship. Yes, I'm a fellow.
Awesome. With Fernanda?
Yes.
Which is I recognize.
Yes.
Amazing.
And our assistant superintendent showed up, our superintendent showed up, and our director of other departments were there, but we were the only district that had representation. So that is amazing because it shows a message that Lawrence care. Not just the staff, but the higher ups also care.
100%. That's amazing. Congratulations to you. Yes.
And to kind of piggyback off what they're both saying, a superintendent who's not just in the city hall office, actually taking the time to come to the schools, understand the students and the staff needs, and is actually present and able to see it for themselves. And because you guys are the ones making the decisions at the end of the day, so it's important to know what's really going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like our superintendent now is the reach of our phone. Like we're able to send a message or get a copy. We get a quick response. So
That's wonderful.
do you have any questions? Any other questions?
No, girls. How do you celebrate? How do you celebrate the great work that you've been doing thus far?
So every school has autonomy, as you can we already know. So I think every school does different celebrations. Like we can say, as a district, there's so much stuff that happens in general. Like we have the art show, and then they do all these like Lawrence. Like I always say, if people can really see the arts that Lawrence has, it's just unbelievable. So we do a lot as a district. Obviously, at the Parkland, they do their thing. The Oliver probably does their thing. The Lady does their own thing. Like I have gone to but the Lady does celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, and they go crazy. The principal's always dressing up with her costumes, and I think this when you talk celebration, every school's so different. So
You mentioned you would be interested in getting to know the cult, the different, because it's good that you recognize, some people forget, we're Latinos, but some are from different backgrounds. Like we have areas where it's very highly populated with Central American, and there's an influx now coming in of Portuguese and Haitian Creole, South American, a lot of Ecuadorians, which I'm Ecuadorian myself. So as I'm thinking that when I do enrollment. So yes, there are a lot of, in the Dominican population and Puerto Rican population, but there's also a huge influx of others. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
That's beautiful. So when I ask about celebration, I'm wondering, do you have opportunities to network, to sit like we're sitting today and have conversations?
To mix with each other, no.
We do it in school.
You do it.
Yeah, we try to do it at least once a week.
Okay.
But if you mean district wise, they have done PLC. They have done family engagement PLC. I remember being part of
So for me, in my role, I'm the family engagement specialist, and once a month, we would get together with all the other family engagement specialists, and we would kind of just feed off of each other, come up with new ideas, and see what's going on at their school, what's happening at ours. But I can't say that happens for every department. But I know that for us, we had that opportunity.
And in our department, like my department is the multilingual learner department, so every school has a lab facilitator, and that's the language acquisition team that focuses on making sure we're screening the kids with languages. So we meet once a month with that team. So we do stuff like that. We do networking, we provide PD, we send them to PD, we send them to MATSA, we send them to this. So I think we do have that. When you ask that question, I think it depends on the department. in what school. This is where autonomy is like. It's
Sandra, what are you thinking? You're very quiet.
I know, she's like, on the spot. No, I mean, for me, I'm looking for someone that's gonna have like that open door policy, and someone that's consistent. I think consistency is a huge factor. I feel that in the past, we've had superintendents where they come in strong, and then they trickle off, you know, and I need that consistency. I want them to be bold, but I also want them to be, like you said, vulnerable, but also the true to themselves, but also to the community, to show their face that when something happens, they're not hiding behind the bulldozer and then just pushing it out to somebody else to do it. You know what I'm saying? We need that you know, that strong character, strong face. You know what I'm saying? To pull us forward.
Consistency is key to get systems to operate to meet the goals and the desire of the community. So the longer there's consistency at the leadership roles within our schools, the better we are poised to make the gains, the great gains that Lawrence desires. Do you have any other wonderings about me? Sometimes
I like what you said, something that you brought up a couple of times. You can say, I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
And although you're not from here, from like Boston area, I do feel like it's not so much of a con. You know, saying it can also be a something good too, because I feel like maybe you might feel like you might have to prove yourself more and give yourself like that extra push and stuff. But I just wanted to know, like, I think that you might bring more fresher ideas to the table, but I also feel like you don't have those political ties to this community. So to me, that's a big thing. I think that when people are from this area, this town, or from Boston, they come with all this political people that's supporting them, and I think that plays a huge factor. And I feel like that's going to get lost in the essence of the whole actual job itself.
Sandra, I'll tell you, because again, know that I value transparency and coming into this role, I know the political pressures and tensions I'm gonna feel. But I'm committed to three things. One is to ensure that wherever I'm at, I am your voice and I'm representing you well from getting to know you and having these conversations. And that two, that I advocate for you, for every single one of you with what you're telling me what's needed. And three, that I be a liaison to ensure that I obtain what's needed to ensure that you have what you need to be successful and for our students to be well poised. Now, within those three components, if I see myself as a new superintendent, know that my positionality will be to provide the information to the elected leaders, to the LEA, to the LAE, and then also to the school committee to say, these are the things that I've seen. This is the data that I have, and this is the information that's before you that's honest, transparent, and that ultimately you will be as elected officials responsible for making the decision. But by no means will I ever not be the representative that you need to be. Your voices in the spaces where you should be represented. And so I say all of that because the commissioner asked me, well, how do you see yourself in the political realms? And I said, I find myself to be very neutral, right? Very neutral. And at the end of the day, what's near and dear to my heart is our students, our staff, and our leaders of the district. And, decisions that are made at the political level will be, based on the information that I present. But it's always going to be unbiased and it's going to be true. And if you ask me something, I will always be speaking from the perspective of the Lawrence community. So that's if I get selected, that's my take, Sandra. And I feel very strongly that as a lifelong educator, that I never forget about any of you, right? And that all of you are represented wherever I'm at. So I will share my phone number in case I'm there and you're seeing me. Y me mandan. Tú puedes y dale. Y no te dejes.
I do want to ask a question because I feel like I've asked all the other candidates. How do you feel about having school resource officers, also answer, in
relationship that is built between ESROs and the students and the schools.
Yeah. Lordy, I will say that our student resource officers serve as officers to ensure the safety of our students, and that entails their social emotional support, and that they feel safe, and that they see them as a resource, not as something to be afraid of. And so for me, it's very important that they understand the historical impact that policing has been done in our communities, and the negative effects of what's what we call the school to prison pipeline. And in order to disrupt that, it is important that our SROs respond to students in a restorative approach and not a punitive approach. And there's absolutely no reason why our students should be fearful of our SROs. And so I was glad to see that they had a dog, and that they come across as someone who are safe for our students to have a relationship with them and approach them to ask for help, and not to be fearful of if I go here or I share my needs or what's occurring, I'm going to get arrested or I'm going to do this and Y. Z. That's absolutely not something that I would like to entertain ever. And so, and if I find out as a superintendent that that's occurring, I would like to address it quickly. So, as a doctoral student, what I've engaged in was to understand the social processes that impact the academic achievement of Hispanic males. And I dove into that word because I understand our prison industry in the United States is mainly composed of our brown and black kids. And so it is up to us to rethink the way we do policing, and how we support our students in our schools, and that is not one way to do it by being punitive. And so for our school resource officers, they're just that. They're a resource to ensure that our students are safe, that we meet their needs, and if they have an ask, that we approach it from a positive mindset and a positive lens. Yeah. I don't want to keep asking.
Oh, you guys ask questions.
So, tell me more about parent engagement. What's the struggle?
Attendance and actual engagement of the parents.
Why do you see that? Do you think because they work two jobs, or because maybe they don't see themselves in cultural spaces where there's a language barrier? What is it?
Definitely the work. I mean, we have families that
That
do have two jobs, and they have to provide for their family, so it's hard for them to pull them away, or they want to pull themselves away from their jobs to come to school, especially when they feel that the school can possibly take care of the situation, or if they feel that the school is there to help out their kids. So definitely, I do think that the work plays a big factor.
Yeah.
And maybe fear too, because some families, they come here and they're a little bit fearful, they're afraid that they come, that something's gonna happen, or they're gonna get
Immigrant families, right?
Yeah, so I think there's that fear that's lingering for a lot of families, especially the ones that are not from here, that are possibly refugees, or, they come from, like this terrible reason.
Well, I make it a point to tell every family that I encounter that they could reach out as many times. It's not a bother. We actually want parents to come to us because this is teamwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me know. You can call me 20 times, and I'm gonna respond.
Yeah.
It's not a bother, and you're worried about your child. So we have to come up with an idea as a team to see how we can support. I love when a parent comes in and asks questions. How's my kid doing? This is how they're doing. Let me help you download Power School on your phone, the way you're keeping track of attendance, grades, and all of that. And when a student sees that the parents are on top of, the behavior tends to change a little bit. Like, oh wow, my mom knows now that I'm not at school, that all this stuff. So, for my end, that's how I feel like family engagement should be.
Yeah,
We should be supporting the parents. Yeah. It's not about a reach out, come in and talk to us.
I think for me, I've noticed that it's a lot of lack of information. A lot of families that are newcomers here don't really know how the system works. They don't know what resources are available to them or what the school has to offer, and they don't even know their rights as a parent on how to advocate for their children. And I feel like that's a big reason as to why the family engagement isn't so present. Yeah, and um,
I think another good thing that's happened this year, at least with at my daughter's school, it's her second year. Last year, the parent engagement was low, but also I attended everything. And when I attended, it was less structured than it is this year. So I don't know what funding this came out of for the Family Resource Center, but this year there was 2 opportunities of like a structured program for parents. For the first one was like a workshop on teaching your kids literacy at home. We got like a take-home bag. Every week there was a homework assignment, but it was like an activity to do at home with your kids. So that like the group was really excited about that because not only do you get something like a little, like materials, but it was a structure to it. There was a reason to come. It wasn't just, okay, what do you guys want to see? Like, I'm shy, for the most part. So parents are shy to engage and meet new people that they don't know. So then when they did a second class similar to that, it increased. And I remember talking to the principal, and I was like, because it was like a structured thing, that we had a reason, we were learning about something. And the same thing happened. It was like another learning opportunity about literacy at home. So I don't know, as whoever takes the job, but if there's ways to make sure stuff like that continues because it's successful.
They are their child's biggest advocate. That is the main goal.
Attention students, the 6 o'clock bus is in front of the building. 6 o'clock bus.
the late bus that we have.
Thank you.
Students that are doing sports, the ones that are here, that are having the late dinners here, the ones that don't want to go home and they linger around. So we have late buses that we drop them off.
What are late dinners?
Just
You guys provide food for them?
Well, USDA, that's a USDA grant. You have to after like a 4 or 5 2 hours, like.
so we have kids that are doing sports and
I used to play basketball. I never got fed up.
That's a USDA grant.
usually
It's only a fed grant.
we also have students that work here after school. Yes, the different internships.
There's a lot of good stuff happening. There's a lot of good stuff happening.
We have to tell that story.
These are the stories that we have to continue saying. And when it comes to, I did family engagement for a little bit for the district, but I realized when I first started, I started as family engagement and in all the schools, but I realized that family engagement was being used for other tasks in the school instead of family engagement itself. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, we need you need to sub, go in there. You need to go be, they weren't really doing
the actual job, yeah.
And then, no, but I think that it's important for her to know that at the end of the day, like, it wasn't given the job. Now it's getting more strategic. Now I'm noticing like the part that I'm like right now is having one family engagement that's what we're doing, and then one person doing attendance, and one person, once you have one person doing
We have a
okay,
mental support at my school.
I see.
They're huge.
like it's a lot of work, and it's like, how do you have one person doing all of it? And when I first started, I started doing the newcomer home visit, and we started again, and I want to start that again. Like, how do we continue this? Because we have a lot of newcomers. I did home visits where they were just like, I don't even know how to get food, and I was like, there's a shelter right across the street, and it's just, why? They were getting information at home. They don't know how to read. Right? So it's just one of those things where these little things that we think we know, we assume.
Do you think the resource map will help? Like very
Yeah.
At the enrollment, because obviously we're like the first phase of the family seat. It's having that personal conversation with them and making them feel that trust us. Like oftentimes the family is displaced because they have the fear of telling us that this is happening. In conversations we find out more.
Yes.
And this is when we start reaching out to the Family Resource Center. I have a parent who needs a job. Okay, so we have somebody that could connect you with that. We have somebody that could review a resume, help
everything
if
else
your
takes
child are
precedence.
in school and then you're able to get the job and do it's easier. And I wanted to say like family engagement is huge for me because you are the connection between the parents and the school. You know, you are that face, you are that connection that they need for them to go in and say, hey, I might not be able to reach a principal right now, but you know that I'm having this issue, and I want you to connect me with the higher up so I could be able to resolve my concerns.
Do you have a let's talk button on the website? I didn't see
I
it.
think they have like, oh, I don't know, like the Walls Council, like something like that.
Also, we have coffee hours.
We have coffee hours with the superintendent, but like, let's talk, is it something where you like press and then they have stuff?
So let's talk. It's pretty much a texting device, if you will, where you can have a two-way conversation with whoever is selected on the Let's Talk app. So, for example, if a parent wants to reach me or somebody else and have really direct questions about transportation or food or so on, they can select where and they get that immediate and we can text and have that immediate response. The other thing that I didn't see in the website and I'm wondering about are anonymous alerts. Do kiddos have access to anonymous alerts? No, where they can tell us what's going on and how we can respond to them immediately. So students that unfortunately to say one of our kids went home and it was physically abused and so he texted through the anonymous alerts to say I need help, I'm at this address, and we were able to send PDs right away and he was saved and I mean he was in really bad shape. Unfortunately his dad had physically abused him really severely, but it wasn't until he texted us that we were able to respond and show up at his household. And so there's back in the day as a principal, we didn't have any of those technologies. So I would always put my Twitter strand on the board outside. On what are those called? On the marquees. And so anytime there was spring break or winter breaks or something, I always told my students take a picture of that. And that is my immediate Twitter account that I had back then. Tweet me if there's anything you need or send me a DM or whatnot. But it's always important for students to be able to communicate and tell us what's going on so that we can respond on a timely manner. Going back to the fear, I will say that in my research, I saw some policies where they were doing, immigration was doing house rates and they were, under that tenacious when our president had asked for immigrants to be, arrested and they can come into the schools. I did read on a lot of that and I'm making the assumption that our families could be fearful of that, of the national conversation that's happening and the way that, it's being expressed. So it's important to rebuild that trust.
And these families not only come with a hardship, but we forget sometimes that they also come with a trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's something that people forget, that these families are coming with a trauma and it passes along to the kids too.
100%. So in 2019 when they instated the family separation policy, a lot of my students that were coming into school were broken. They're experiencing a lot of trauma because their parents had just been separated and they had been, in these compounds, if you will, and they were just released. And oftentimes it was Theo or Theo or a friend or whoever would pick them up, and they were so distraught. It was even hard to engage them in the learning. So what I did back then is I quickly acted to develop an organization called Bears of Love, and so where we made efforts to ensure that we had bear donations, and there was like 3,000 bears collected. So we traveled to the Catholic services and we traveled to the homes where any of the other kids had separated, so they can have something to hug. And it was just heartbreaking, right, that these policies impact our families, and all they're trying to do is do what's best for the kids. Needless to say, guys, wish me luck. Well, that's to say, pray for me. joy to be before you, and whoever is selected, I know they'll be good for Lawrence, and so keep up the good work, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.